Welcome to this special online broadcast dedicated to the historic event of May 5th. Well, let's see what makes this day historic. Exactly 53 years ago, on this day in 1970, Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi opened the crown chakra, or the Sahasrara chakra as it is known in Yoga Shastras, which is the last spiritual center of our evolutionary consciousness. The impact of this event on both the individual and global collective level has benefited millions of people worldwide. And she gave the world a simple meditation technique called Sahaja Yoga. The practitioners of Sahaja Yoga meditation celebrate this historic event as World Self-Realization Day. And this year, we also commemorate the 100th anniversary of the birth of Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi, respectfully known as Shri Mataji, who was the world's most iconic female spiritual leader. Shri Mataji is the only spiritual guru in history to have imparted the experience of self-realization to thousands in her public programs worldwide. And we will explore her life, this historic event, and the revolutionary spiritual transformation that has taken place because of her work over the last 5 decades. Shri Mataji touched the lives of millions of people who have benefited from the unique experience of self-realization, a turning point in their lives. Shri Mataji was born in 1923 in Chhindwara, India, into a highly placed Christian family that belonged to the royal Shalivahana lineage, and she spent her early years fighting alongside her parents in the struggle for India's independence, and also spent time with Mahatma Gandhi at his Sacrum ashram. And Gandhi recognized her as a spiritual prodigy. She later studied medicine in Lahore, founded several charities, and raised her own family with her husband C.P. Srivastava, who later went on to become the longest-serving Secretary General of the United Nations International Maritime Organization in London. Although Shri Mataji lived a fulfilling life as a housewife, mother, and a grandmother, she dedicated an enormous amount of her time to discovering how human beings can realize spirituality from within. But it was not until 1970, at her age of 47, that Shri Mataji finally decided to actualize her innate spiritual power and fulfill her life's mission. And it all began in the early hours of May 5th, after a night-long meditation on a lonely beach in Nargol, India, where Shri Mataji experienced a monumental manifestation of her innate divinity.
After raising her children to adulthood and seeing them happily married, Shri Mataji had fulfilled her responsibilities as a mother and a householder, and was prepared to embark upon her true life's work, the emancipation of humanity. Having been invited to the ashram of a prominent local guru in 1970, she was shocked to see him looting people in the name of spirituality. Suddenly aware that the seekers everywhere were in danger from this future trend, Shri Mataji searched deep within herself for a solution. She spent the entire night on the seashore contemplating. And in the early hours of the morning, disgust with the falsehood she had witnessed and compassion for her children everywhere forced her to act. She meditated upon the Sahasrara, the energy center on the crown of the head, and prayed that all the seekers of truth would eventually receive their enlightenment and bring about the dawning of collective consciousness in humanity. She describes this historic event.
As soon as Sahasrara was open, the whole atmosphere was filled with tremendous Chaitanya. And there was tremendous light in the sky. And the whole thing came on this earth as if a torrential rain or a waterfall with such a tremendous force as if I was unaware and got stupefied. The happening was so unexpected and so tremendous that I was stunned and I became completely silent at its grandeur. I saw the primordial Kundalini rising like a big furnace, and the furnace was very silent but burning appearance it had, as if you heat up some metal and it has many colors. In the same way, the Kundalini showed up like a huge furnace, which is like a tunnel, where you see these plants you have for coal burning to create electricity. And it stretched like a telescope, one after another came out like that.
This unique experience was a pivotal movement triggering the possibility of unmasked self-realization, where human beings can now actually experience the spirit, the Atma, the kingdom of heaven within themselves, as prophesied by all the true religions of the world. In her unending compassion and love for humanity, Shri Mataji traveled the world and shared this gift of self-realization tirelessly through her own voluntary efforts. And Sahaja Yoga provides the key to absolute freedom and liberation from the illusory bondage of life, and it bestows inner peace on the individual, forming the foundation for collective global peace. World Self-Realization Day is truly a day to celebrate, as this great event has transformed the lives of untold numbers of people and will continue to transform the lives of future generations. In this broadcast, we will learn from two professional experts who are longtime medical practitioners, Dr. Ashish Pradhan from San Francisco, USA, and Dr. Engelbert Oman from Vienna, Austria. And both Dr. Ashish and Dr. Engelbert will discuss the relationship between our physical, neurophysical bodies and our spiritual subtle bodies. But let's begin our journey into the distant past, where we ask ourselves some important questions. Were our ancestors aware of a more subtle spiritual system within the physical body? Is there a connection between the origins of medical science and ancient spiritual systems of healing that preceded the development of science itself?
If we go back 3,000 years, in Greece, there lived a physician who was called Asclepius, part legend, part god, part human. And this person called Asclepius was supposed to be the son of Apollo, the god Apollo. Whether or not he was, of course, is the myth part of it. However, what is more important is that he was a legendary physician. In fact, Hippocrates wrote and would consider himself to be the follower of Asclepius. Now, Asclepius was blessed or had the gift that he could cure diseases and he could heal ailments that were considered intractable, pretty difficult. But he would do that also with the help of something called as serpent power. There is always an association of Hippocrates with his staff with a serpent kind of coiled around it. Interestingly, even today in the 21st century, many medical associations, physician organizations use that symbol of a staff and a serpent coiled around it. It is one of the most commonest symbols that is used in medicine. So it is interesting that the origin of modern medicine somehow is related to the use of serpent power and serpents. Now let's come to Sahaja Yoga. In our subtle body is part of this hypothesis again. We start with the sacrum bone or the os sacrum as it is called in Latin, or in Greek, in ancient Greek it was called as hieron osteon. Hieron in classical Greek means sacred or even a temple. So there was a notion right from that time that within our body, within the sacrum bone, there is something sacred. There is something temple-like almost related to this bone. Now we say in Sahaj Yoga, as part of what we believe to be the construct, the fundamental construct of the subtle system, that the sacrum bone contains a mothering energy. It contains a residual dormant energy. And it is this energy, the awakening of which is considered to be the primary objective of yoga or union, which is through the process of self-realization. So the os sacrum or the hieron osteon through modern medicine, and then of course through the classical textbooks of yoga that describe the existence of this serpent-like energy that is coiled in 3.5 coils in our sacrum, is an interesting correspondence.
Indian saints like Shri Markandeya, Adi Shankaracharya and Gyaneshwara describe Kundalini Shakti as the key to achieving meditation, and a great reverence was given to the Kundalini's location at the base of our spine. Could it be that our human body is anatomically built as a spiritual container for higher experiences beyond our senses? And do these spiritual experiences positively influence our lives?
When that energy rises within us, that there is a point within us and beyond us which, when the Kundalini reaches there, has profound, wonderful effects and beautiful effects on our being. And in all humility, I want to say I have experienced that over and over, and I simply want to share that with you. So starting with the Kundalini, I want to say, first of all, medical mind, where is it located and what is the actually anatomy of that energy? Now, she is located in a triangular bone which is within us, the sacrum bone. It already contains the word sacred within itself. It means holy. It's since long time in the medical terminology, it has been called as a sacred place. Within our body is it at the base of the spine, at the base of the spinal cord. Here it's a very strong bone, it's a very dense bone. Here in the very center of it is a coiled energy which is called the Kundalini. It rests there in 3.5 coils and it has a specific anatomy. This energy is built by thousands of subtle strings of energies interwoven into each other like a rope and slowly unfolding. Now, it is important to say that this energy has a intelligence. It has a divine intelligence within itself, and when it rises and when these powers within that snake type energy, coiled energy within us, when she evolves, she rises due to her own innate intelligence within us. So she knows where we are, how we are, what are our weaknesses, what are our diseases, as well as in the physical body, as well as in our psychic body, as well as in our mental body. All that is known. It's a divine energy. It's a divine intelligence. So this energy slowly rises within us, unfolds within us, and it can be experienced very clearly, very substantially, what a profound effect and also what a subtle effect it has. She is really moving in an intelligent way, balancing our system, and by that having a strong impulse on our central nervous system, on our autonomous nervous system. Beyond the autonomous nervous system, there is all the neurotransmitters, all the structures, the finer structures in our body, the gland system, neurotransmitters, and many other subtle structures which have an impact, a very strong impact on our well-being.
What is the nature of this Kundalini energy? How does it interact with our daily lives? Although it is said to be of a much higher intelligence, how come we are not overpowered by its presence within us?
The Kundalini, we have touched a little bit about the anatomy of the Kundalini, the way it is interwoven in different Shaktis, the way she has a divine intelligence, but above all, she loves us. She is a divine mother, she is a motherly, a female energy which loves us. Now let us think how much, in a normal case, how much a mother loves her child. Now transport that to the divine, how much a divine mother must love us and must care for us. And that is exactly what is happening in a Sahaja Yoga meditation when the Kundalini is activated, starts to rise and starts to unfold. This Kundalini has specific qualities. If we would ask our Kundalini to help us to destroy someone which we don't like, or if we would ask the Kundalini to do something absurd which is not within the divine laws, she cannot do that. She simply cannot do it, it's not in her nature. But this Kundalini is made basically for our well-being, in the deepest sense of the word. She is, first of all, giving us a balance. Then later on, she brings harmony in our emotional aspect. She brings peace into our mental being. She restores within us the sense of innocence, the sense of wisdom, and all these divine qualities are within her and are slowly transported and manifested in our being, actually in our nervous system, central nervous system, autonomous nervous system, neurotransmitters, gland system, and all that structures which give us these experiences. And above all, she is the love of a mother, and she is the joy, the ultimate joy, and in that sense she represents the fulfillment of what we are seeking as human beings. Especially those of us, as I addressed in the beginning, who are fellow friends, who seek meditation, who love meditation, who love to work on themselves. And there are so many, I know so many younger people and people in the middle age like me, and many of us are really seeking this ultimate answer to our existence. And I can tell you from and let me talk also as a medical doctor here, from that perspective, this energy is capable to give what we are seeking.
First of all, I think this is the most important thing to understand about your own Kundalini, as self-realization is self-knowledge. And the one who gives you self-knowledge is this, your own Kundalini. Because when she rises, she points it out, what are the problems on your chakras. Now, we say that it is pure desire. But we do not know what purity means. It means your chaste desire. It means it has no lust, greed, anything in it. That power is your own mother and is settled in your triangular bone. She is your own mother. She knows everything about you. It's like a tape recorder. She knows everything about you. And she is absolutely the knowledge. Because she's so pure. And whatever chakras she touches, she also knows what's wrong with that chakra beforehand. So she is quite prepared. And she adjusts herself fully so that you do not get a problem by her awakening. If any chakra is constricted, she waits and goes on slowly, opening that chakra. Now this Kundalini is the primordial power which is reflected within you. And within you, in a human being, it is like many strands of energy. So it's like a rope. And these energies are all twisted together to form this Kundalini. In a human being, these strands are 3 into 7, that is 21, raised to power 108. But when your Kundalini rises, 1 or 2 strands out of this come up and pierce the fontanelle bone area. Only 1 or 2. Because it has to pass through the innermost nadi, known as Brahma Nadi. It's all a spiral throughout, because Kundalini is a spiral, and these nadis are also like a spiral, like this. So the innermost nadi is the Brahma Nadi. The outermost nadi is the right side. And the second innermost is the Ida Nadi. So through the Brahma Nadi, she starts sending those threads. By that, they relax the center. By the relaxation of the center, the sympathetic nervous system also starts relaxing. And when it goes to the Agya Chakra, then your eyes start relaxing, your pupils start dilating, and your eyes can become like mine, very black, absolutely relaxed. So you can easily see in a person how far is the Kundalini. If it has pierced the Agya, then the eyes will be completely dilated and will be shiny. And then she enters into the Sahasrara. Now it is absolutely pure light of knowledge, love, compassion, and attention. All these 3 things are in that energy. We know of many energies like electrical energy, we know of light energy, we know of other energies. But these energies cannot think. They cannot adjust. They cannot work on their own. They are to be handled by us. But this energy itself is the living energy and knows how to handle itself. It
things. If you see a seed being sprouted, you'll find at the tip of the seed there's a small little cell which knows how to go around the soft places and then how to encircle the stones and then how to find its way to the source. That cell has got, I would say, a little Kundalini in it, the way it moves. But within you is a tremendous force of Kundalini exists. So you have a storehouse of compassion which can be enlightened by the Spirit. You have the storehouse of love, compassion, and knowledge, and ocean of forgiveness.
Now that we grasp a deeper understanding of Kundalini and its working, it would be perhaps helpful to understand the modus operandi of Kundalini energy, or Shakti as they call it in Sanskrit, within our subtle body. Also more interesting would be to understand how our subtle body interacts with our anatomical body. And perhaps there are deeper correlations between our spiritual being and our physiological being. But are we able to understand these complicated relationships? And does this help us to live a more holistic life?
What does the subtle system according to Sahaj look like? It comprises, yes, to begin with, the sacrum bone with the mothering energy enshrined in it, but also it consists of 3 energy channels and 7 energy centers within it. The 3 energy channels relate to, in the center, which is called a path of evolution. On the left and right sides, we have the energy through which we are able to desire on the left side, and on the right side, so-called, we have the energy channel or the energy that allows us to bring forth that desire into action. So 3 energy channels in the center, we call a path of evolution, a left and a right. Interestingly, within now the central nervous system, we have 2 parts. One is the central nervous system consisting of the brain and the spinal cord, and then we have the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system also has a couple of different components such as the sensory nervous system, the motor nervous system, and then within the motor nervous system we have a very important system called as the autonomic nervous system, and we are going to focus the next few minutes on what it means. The autonomic nervous system, as the name implies, is autonomous. In other words, it is not under volitional control. It deals with some of our most important vegetative functions, such as our heart rate, our digestion, our endocrine system. All of this is controlled by this system. In other words, again, if let's say we want to exercise, I start exercising, my heart rate goes up. It goes up because the body needs more oxygen. Who controls it? It's the autonomic nervous system. If I eat something, or if we eat something, we don't have to think about having to push the food down our gastrointestinal tract, from the stomach to the duodenum and beyond. It is the system that takes care of it. Again, it's the autonomic nervous system. We don't have to think about it. It does it on its own. It's a system that functions on its own. Now, the autonomic nervous system has 2 components to it. One is the parasympathetic component and the other called the sympathetic component. Okay? Now, let's go one step deeper. The parasympathetic system basically is a kind of a conservatory system. In other words, it slows down your heart rate, it allows the food to be propelled, so on and so forth. The sympathetic nervous system does exactly the opposite. It increases the heart rate, let's say if you are exercising, or it slows down the process of propulsion within the gastrointestinal tract. Just to keep to these 2 examples. So they act in complementary fashion but in opposite directions. Alright. Now, How are these systems governed or controlled? Within our central nervous system, within the brain and the spinal cord, the brain that sits within the cranium and the spinal cord, there are small cells called as neurons. These neurons then they move forward, or let's say not, they don't move forward, but from the neurons arise long filamentous structures, and these form, when they leave the brain, they come out of the brain or they come out of the spinal cord, which we normally call as nerves, right? And they form small ganglions. Ganglions are nothing but essentially collections of nerve cells. They contain both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic components. Then they move out further and they form around organs such as the heart. They form a complex which is called as a plexus. So for example, a cardiac plexus that is around the heart, that a couple of places around the heart. Then you have, for example, the aortic plexus, so on and so forth. These are plexuses that are responsible for controlling, governing, regulating the functions of these organs. And this way, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic exert control on these organs. And the origin of this control exists with the neurons. Now, let's come back to Sahaja Yoga. Let's come back to our original hypothesis. Within the central channel, we have 7 energy centers. From the base of the spine, right up to the top, up to the crown, up to the 7th energy center in the crown of our head. These energy centers, Sahaja Yoga, according to the Sahaja Yoga hypothesis, regulate the functions of these plexuses. So perhaps at a subtle level that medicine is yet to figure out, these energy centers maybe govern the functions of the neurons that in turn govern the functions of the plexuses, which in turn govern the functions of the organs. So the chakra to the neuron, to the nerve filaments, to the plexuses and to the organ. That is potentially the linkage that exists within our body. But of course, modern science is yet to discover the chakra part of it. The rest of it is a well-established fact of neurophysiology. This way, the body is governed. Now, that is what corresponds to the subtle system.
When compared to our ancestors who had to go through a higher level of hardship, even to fulfill simple necessities of life, in this modern day and age, we practically feel like we have full control over the littlest things in our lives, and we may wonder if there is a way to exercise control over our subtle system.
When we, with our ego, would try to manipulate or direct, or with our mental effort to work on our gland system, on our neurotransmitters, we know about the serotonin, about the oxytocin, about dopamine, all these endorphins, all these neurotransmitters which are supposed to give us happiness and joy. When we try too much to manipulate them with our ego, or do it with too much of visualization, affirmation activities, we might not reach that balanced result which can be given when we give this process to a divine intelligence, which is happening in this Sahaja Yoga we are talking about.
The Kundalini's ultimate journey is through our brain, the most important organ in our body. Does this passage of Kundalini through our brain influence, impact, or even unfold new dimensions here? Neuroscience reveals that the limbic system is a key part of our brain, but does this area also hold a spiritual significance?
The limbic system is a system that sits within the core of our brain. It literally sits at the core. If you take a look at the brain and if you take a slice of it, it literally sits at the core. And it comprises of 3 or 4 very important structures. The first one of them is the hypothalamus. It also consists of, say, the amygdala, the thalamus, and the hippocampus. But the hypothalamus is one of the key structures. Why is it so important from a Sahaj point of view? Because in the limbic system, there exists the hypothalamus, which is believed to control the functioning of the autonomic nervous system. So there you go. There is that relationship. The limbic system is supposed to correspond to the seventh energy center according to the Sahaj hypothesis, and it is the limbic system, or within the limbic system resides the hypothalamus that actually regulates the function of the autonomic nervous system. It also controls our homeostasis, which means the body temperature. If you are in a hot climate, you start sweating. If you are in a cold climate, you conserve energy, the body conserves energy, so on and so forth. Then there is the amygdala within the limbic system. It deals with our emotions. There is hippocampus that deals with our memories. And there is, of course, the thalamus, which regulates sort of the sensory input. So in the brain, you have impulses that are coming from around the body, that pass through the system and are then channeled by the thalamus into different parts of the brain. So with these 3 or 4 structures, these are the most important components of the limbic system. What happens? Why is this system so important? This system is important because it allows us to survive. It allows us to process information. It allows us to respond to emotional stimuli and to respond accordingly. And that is how it governs our autonomic nervous system. And in other words, this limbic system is literally core, metaphorically as well as literally, to human existence. And that's the limbic system. And it has a very important role, not just within the human body, but even from a spiritual point of view.
We have to understand what happens when the Sahasrara opens. When the Kundalini passes through the 5 centers, it enters into the area which we call as limbic area. This area is all surrounded by 1,000 nerves. And when these nerves get enlightened, they look like flames of vibgyor colors, 7 colors, and very mildly, beautifully shining, emitting peace. But when the Kundalini starts emitting its vibration on the sides, all these nerves get enlightened gradually and start moving on all directions, opening the Sahasrara. And then the Kundalini emerges out through the fontanelle bone area, which we call as Brahma Randra. Randra means the whole, and the Brahma is the all-pervading power of God's love. So it enters into the subtle energy, which is all-pervading, which we do not feel normally. But then the Chaitanya, the vibrations, which are the part and parcel of this energy, all-pervading power, the Parama Chaitanya, they start entering into our brain and showering their blessings in the limbic area they assemble. Now the limbic area is connected to all the area of the brain and also to the nerves. So it starts flowing onto the nerves, giving you the new awareness of collective consciousness called as Samuhik Chetana. So you get a new Chetana, a new awareness, which is showered upon your limbic area. The working of these Chaitanya waves is very interesting. They are normally formed like small commas, but then they go into different forms. They make themselves into swastikas as the four-limbed symbol of innocence, or they become the Omkara, as you know how Om is written, which is the symbol of our doing, our awareness. So when they form the swastika, they try to nourish the left side, and when they form the Omkara, they nourish the right side. Left and right sympathetic nervous system, they nourish. But Sahasrara is to be kept open is rather difficult for people, because it's a vicious circle. First, these vibrations should enter into your brain through the Brahmarandra when it is opened out, and they should nourish your nerves, by which your left and right side open out, and so more Chaitanya can flow down all these centers. But if your Sahasrara is not properly opened, this process doesn't take place. As a result of that, the chakras don't open, the Kundalini only as very few strands is kept in the spinal cord, and the new strands cannot rise because your chakras are not open. So in Sahaja Yoga, it is very important to keep your Sahasrara open.
In this journey of our body, brain, and subtle system, we begin to understand that everything is interconnected. Does this reflect an overall divine plan? Are we as human beings interconnected with each other, with nature, and with the entire cosmos?
The human body itself is a composite, and Sahaj also functions, or the predominant hypothesis of Sahaj is collectivity. It is premised in the notion of collectivity, that is, all of us coming together are more than the sum of the parts. In other words, we are all part and parcel of a vastly enormous being. So the human body, when we look at it, for example, if you look at me right now as you are seeing me on the screen, I'm actually a composite of about 35 to 37 trillion individual cells. So in a way, I'm a mirage. I'm not really this. In other words, the being that is me, the body that is me, is actually made up of 37 or 35 trillion individual cells. So also the human brain. The human brain is probably the most fantastic thing within the human body. It is made up of about 80 to 85 billion individual cells called as neurons. These neurons, each individual neuron is also fantastic in the sense that it has these connections that it puts out, they're called as dendrites, and each individual neuron connects to has about 10,000 connections. So let's do the math. 85 billion neurons, 80 to 85 billion neurons, each with about 10 to 10,000 connections at an individual level. It is small wonder that some neuroanatomists say that within 1 cubic millimeter of our brain tissue, we have more synaptic networks or these connections that these neurons make with each other than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy. So together, the brain therefore functions in a collective paradigm. What we call our brain is actually a functioning of these billions and billions of neurons coming together and talking to each other. And that again is the ultimate physiological, anatomical expression of Sahaja Yoga, which is the principle of collectivity.
Samadhi, in Sanskrit terminology, denotes a higher state of awareness that a meditation practitioner achieves after sustained practice. How does this new state of awareness established in Samadhi help us in our day-to-day lives?
When this Kundalini, which we have spoken about now, when she reaches those upper centers in the brain, I would say, first of all, the center, the sixth center, the chakra of Agya chakra, which actually lies anatomically at the crossing point of the two nerves of the eye. It's called the chiasma opticum. When she rises and pierces through that center, she first of all really calms the mind. It's the first step. She calms the mind and she gives an experience which is called thoughtless awareness, Nivichara Samadhi. And there are, we could say, that's the point actually from where a deeper meditation begins, where deeper meditation starts, and where we touch the true core of our inner being. Now, above that is in the core of the brain a structure called the limbic system, the limbic area. Here the Kundalini spreads and regulates and balances. And above that, from there out, if we cut the brain in different directions, we see in a three-dimensional way how the nerves, and with the nerves also the nadis of the subtle system, expand, evolve like a flower, like radiant strings. When the Kundalini touches this slowly, it's a very slow, gentle process. Again, remember what we said in the beginning, it's an intelligent energy, divine intelligent. She knows which nadi to touch, which nadi to bring some light into, and how to balance the system. And first of all, very few of these many Shaktis of the Kundalini touch a point which is called the Brahmarandra. It's the spot where in a baby it remains soft. It's the word means, Brahma means the divine, and Randra means the opening, the hole. So she sends just a few strings out here. The mind becomes peaceful. We don't really know what's going on, but with the practice of this meditation, with the practical point, we over time, depending, with some people, for me, took a long time, but for other people it might go much faster, but we experience an expansion of our awareness into a collective consciousness, but that means also into a tremendously expand sense of satisfaction, of enjoyment of life, enjoyment of other people, the intelligence of loving other human beings, the desire to love other human beings, that is also involving, and there are all these nadis with their functions who are giving that quality to us, and it becomes, that process becomes extremely fulfilling and extremely, you almost develop a very strong desire to talk about it, to tell it to others, especially when you are in that state. It's not always that we are in that state, but in my case, after so many years, it does happen over and over. And then when you are there, you want to give it, you want to really touch the heart of another person, say, look, this is within us, this is possible. And so all these nadis, they unfold like a beautiful flower, and really the last step of that process is when more and more of these nadis get enlightened, we can receive this all-pervading power, which is called Param Chaitanya in Sanskrit. We can receive it through, sometimes, depending on how many nerves of the Sahasrara get opened, more and more of that Param Chaitanya can tickle into our system, and tickle us with the joy, tickle us with the love, and ultimately there is an ocean of love and joy in which we are placed and which we are made for by the divine. There's a tremendous concept of the divine desire, I should say, for each and every one of us human beings, and look into that, and believe me, enjoy it. I am someone who likes to enjoy life as well, but I have not found any better enjoyment than this reality and this inner self within us, which is called the Atma and the Paramatma, and ultimately the relation to the divine.
Now that we have gained some understanding of how this divine Kundalini energy works in our subtle system, it is time for us to dive into this spiritual experience and experiment. But before we do that, we do want to thank our distinguished guests for joining today and sharing this valuable information with the viewers. And above all, a heartfelt thanks to Shri Mataji for sharing this knowledge with humanity at no cost. And we also want to remind our viewers to subscribe to srimataji.org, the YouTube channel. And yes, it is time for us to take you through a simple guided meditation that Shri Mataji has demonstrated countless number of times in thousands of public programs that she has given around the world. And the process simply involves placing the right hand on the centers along the left side in the body and keeping the palm of the left hand open. In this exercise, we'll be recommended to keep our eyes closed, but we will be able to follow the placement of the hand as guided by Shri Mataji in this upcoming video.
Place the right hand on the heart. Place the right hand on the upper part of the abdomen. Place the right hand on the lower part of the abdomen. Place the right hand on the upper part of the abdomen. Place the right hand on the heart. Place the right hand on the neck. Place the right hand on the forehead. Place the right hand behind the head. Place the right hand on the fontanelle area.
Keep your eyes closed. First of all, please put your right hand on your heart. All the time the left hand is towards me. Now, here you have to say, in your heart, with all sincerity, Mother, am I the spirit? Ask the question 3 times in your heart. This is a very fundamental question. Now bring the right hand on to the left hand side of your stomach, in the upper part. Here press it. Now this is the center of your mastery, your guidance, your Guru Tattva as they say. So ask a question, Mother, am I my own master? This is a question to be asked 3 times. Mother, am I my own master? Now, bring your right hand down below, in the lower part of the abdomen. Now, this is the center from which all the divine work is done. All the pure work is done. So to ask 6 times, because this center has got 6 petals. Mother, please give me pure knowledge. 6 times you just ask. As a result of this asking, the Kundalini starts getting awakened. Now to help the Kundalini rise, you have to cooperate with her. So please put your right hand on the left hand side in the upper part of your abdomen and press it on the stomach. Now here you have to say with full confidence to help the Kundalini to rise, Mother, I am my own master. This you have to say 10 times. These are the 10 commandments which you have to say. That, Mother, I am my own master. Now, 10 times with full confidence. Now, please raise your right hand to your heart. Now, here you have to say, again with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This is the truth. You are the Spirit. But you have to say with full confidence, Mother, I am the Spirit. This you have to say 12 times. Now one has to know that God Almighty is the ocean of love. But above all, He is the ocean of forgiveness. So He forgives. Whatever wrong you do, He forgives. So don't feel guilty and put your right hand across on the left hand side in the corner which is made by your neck and your shoulder. Now here you have to say, again with full confidence, 16 times, Mother, I am not guilty. Please say it. Mother, I am not guilty. 16 times. I am not guilty at all. Please say it. Please say it. very hot. Now raise your hand across on your forehead. And it's a very important center. Here you have to say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Please say it from your heart. How many times is not the point. Mother, I forgive everyone. Now some would say that it's very difficult to forgive. But it's a myth that we do not forgive or we forgive. We do not do anything in both the cases. But if we don't forgive, then we play into wrong hands. So please say from your heart, Mother, I forgive everyone. Now please take your hand on the back agya, the same center, on the back side of your head and allow your head to rest on it and push it back a little bit. Now here, you have to say, for your satisfaction, because you always feel guilty, that, O Divine, if I have done anything wrong, please forgive me. Please forgive me. From your heart. Stretch your hand fully and put your center of your palm on top of the fontanelle bone area, which was a very soft bone in your childhood. Press it hard. Press hard your scalp. Now you have to move it 7 times, saying one thing, which you have to ask for. Mother, please give us my self-realization. Because I cannot force on you. So you have to ask for it. 7 times, press it hard and move it 7 times. Very hard. Slowly. Saying that.